Good evening, everybody. My name is Steve Lance, the executive producer, and really just want to thank everybody for coming out tonight. I know many of the audience members here were unfortunately victims of the CCP's transnational repression and intimidation behind the bomb threats that shut down the remaining Shen shows in Toronto. And we're happy that you're able to at least experience Shen in some form tonight here with us, and you're going to be fortunate to meet some of the performers, dancers, and some of the cast members that were in the film. So without further ado, I would like to first invite Sunny Joe, a Toronto native and Shen dancer. And next, Lily Parker, also a Shen dancer and another native here from Toronto. Lily. And Rachel Shen, please come on up. Rachel, violist, member of Shen Performing Arts and the Shen Symphony Orchestra. You might recognize Rachel from the film. And Levi Browdy, otherwise or known as Dad.
Yes.
Levi, Executive Director of the Fallen Dauphin Information Center and father of the two stars, Lucas and Jesse.
Yes.
And now, the Browdy brothers, stars of the film and Shen dancers, taking on lead roles in the company. Honored to have both of them here. Alrighty. Well, what an honor to have everybody here. I know how busy everybody is touring the world. Lucas and Jesse just coming back from Europe, still in a time zone change. I want to start with you guys, Lucas and Jesse. Talk to us about sort of what it was like to see yourselves on the screen and sort of the most emotional or remarkable thing that you took away from watching the film, and something that you might have saw that you don't think even people that knew you the best didn't see.
Honestly, for me, the one thing I keep taking away from this film is because I'm kind of a sentimental person, so it's pretty surreal seeing all the memories that I've made throughout all these years with my friends and also with my brother, and so it's pretty surreal to see like those memories kind of on the big screen. Yeah.
For me, because this film, right, even though it just shows a certain amount of cast members, there are so many other people, so many other stories that people have to tell. And it's kind of just like, even though it's just us few kind of in the film representing, we actually have so many more people with amazing stories to tell as well. And, to be able to kind of speak up and help out Shen is really been an honor.
And Sunny and Lily, you guys are actually from Toronto. So what was it like, experiencing this film right here, unfortunately under, circumstances that we wish were different, but being in your hometown, what was it like?
Well, it feels very, very special. It also feels very surreal. I actually watched Shen growing up in Toronto every single year with my family. My parents would take my brother and I every year, and we would be so excited to come watch the show. So being here today on Shen 20th anniversary, it's really an honor.
Yeah, I've actually never toured in Toronto before, but I've always really wanted to come back to my home city to perform. And I was just talking about this with my friends a few days ago. And I was like, I really wish I could go to Toronto and perform. And then just like that night, I heard that I could come to this screening. So I was just super happy. I'm just thrilled to be here. And I'm so excited that my fellow Canadians get to see our story.
We learned in the film, Rachel, that you're not from Toronto, but another cold place in North America, Chicago. What struck you most in the film?
To be honest, because I was there at the New York City premiere, and there was a lot going on that day, so a lot of different feelings. And watching the film for the first time, it feels very surreal. But tonight, what really struck me was, sorry to call you up, but watching Levi tear up on screen, because
you're not gonna make me cry, no matter what you say. Go ahead.
Okay. Because I just thought of my own parents. It's like I've been touring with Shen for so many years, and aside from we haven't had bomb threats until recently, but after touring for so many years, they're always concerned about our safety and our well-being. And then
There's a howling. But when you bring
And
out
then
the
with
evidence-
all the bomb threats in recent years, it really feels like, it's very disrespectful to them and also to other Shen parents as well. And sometimes we've normalized it, which is not very normal. We normalize it in the film. It's like, oh, we got 140 bomb. That's not normal. That's something that feels really normal because we see the police come in and check our theaters with the dogs, but honestly, no other performing arts really experience that. So tonight, it really felt like watching Levi cry because his sons are here too. I thought of my own parents and all the other hundreds of parents that they experienced this.
With that said, Levi, you appear in the film as an expert on the persecution of Falun Dafa, but also as a father of two boys. And we saw what unfolded in the middle of the film. They're in Taiwan dancing, and you get a call that there's bomb threats. Talk to us about how the environment that you've raised your boys in has sort of shaped your view and really what's at stake in all that's taking place.
I mean, what comes to mind for me is when I saw the campus there, I think that's the thing you only got to see a little bit above in this movie, and in terms of raising young boys and what was the most interesting to me. I think in the movie, I think I said I really didn't know anything about Chinese dance. I still kind of don't. But what fascinated me was, and you don't hear a lot about, is that beautiful campus you saw just for a moment is not just the headquarters of Shen Yun. That also has an academy boarding school and a college that have an arrangement with Shen Yun for the elite dancers there that reach a certain level can go on a practicum program and perform alongside the professionals. But the school is absolutely amazing. It harkens back to the old days. My father went to Deerfield Academy in Massachusetts, and those old days where schools would really take a real responsibility, not just for the academic learning of the students, not just for the elite artistry, but for the character. And having a place that's rooted in faith and that really takes pride in developing the character of the young students alongside with the academics and the artistry is really what struck me most. And it came across a little bit in the film, but it's sort of a little hidden Easter egg, and it's really quite incredible.
Yeah, and it was incredible for us to be able to go there and film you guys and watch your process and see the beautiful grounds that you guys are fortunate enough to train in on a regular basis. So we're going to come back now to our locals, Lily and Sunny. For Toronto audience folks that maybe weren't able to see it because it was canceled, what does a Shen Yun performance feel like to you guys from the stage? And what stories do you guys tell through your dance?
Well, for the audience, to see a Shen Yun show, first you will probably be blown away by the colors, the music, the costumes that you see. But for us performing on stage, the whole process preparing for the show is very worth sharing. The whole process of training, becoming a dancer, and then to practicing our performance pieces, learning the stories behind and our characters, how we portray them on stage. The whole process is very amazing.
I feel like a lot of times audiences talk about the energy they feel from the stage or the passion they feel us giving to the audience. And I think he talked about our headquarters and how beautiful they are. And I think for myself sometimes what I think of it is I'm so lucky to go to that, to participate in Shen Yun and to be able to thrive in that environment. And it's just such a pure and wonderful environment. And I feel like when I dance on stage, I just hope I can bring a tiny bit of that to the audience, especially when I see people's faces just light up. It just kind of reminds me how beautiful, not just Chinese culture is, but our faith or our whole environment and all the people around me. When so many people are putting their hearts into a great purpose to spread these values and to try and invoke hope in people, that really resonates, and I can see it on people's faces. And that's when I kind of realized just how powerful that goodness is and how strong and pure our environment is. I think sometimes when I'm there all the time, I don't feel it, but when I see audiences' reactions, I was like, wow, I'm so lucky, and I should really cherish it. And then I want even more to just help them experience a little bit of that.
We sometimes give tours to people. I volunteer at the college that's on the campus, and sometimes we like to go into the dance rehearsal spaces and show them kind of the rehearsals. And sometimes you go in there, and the whole troupe is meditating. And I think this is something interesting because you're looking at a dance troupe that not only deals in elite artistry, but this is a dance troupe that meditates together every day, that reads sort of Buddhist-based scriptures based on the Falun Gong religion every day, and that stuff really comes through in their artistry. And I think that's what, I've seen some of you guys behind the scenes, but also being on front and watching it. What's remarkable about the performance, and people don't quite see, understand, well, where's this genuineness come from? Where's this thing, this magical thing that really touches the audience? I think it's that. And it's very interesting. We bring people to campus and we open up the dance troupe, and there they are sitting in meditation, very tranquil. It's part of the training, and it's remarkable.
I want to say I feel like there's a strong connection between our dance and our spiritual practice. So the spiritual practice, when we follow the principles of truthfulness, compassion, and forbearance, and we strive to become better people every single day. And so I feel like for dance, it's the same thing. We strive to become better dancers in our training, in our stamina training, flexibility. It's perseverance, resilience, like shown in the movie, and I think it's all connected.
Yeah, I remember one time a veteran dancer in our class was talking to us, and she was saying, like, just because somebody's good at dance, it doesn't mean they're above anybody else. And that kind of struck me because she's like a really great dancer and a huge star, but she never acts like that. And she will tell older dancers that too, and she'll tell anybody that. She's like, just because you're good at dance, it doesn't mean you can treat other people differently. It doesn't mean we're going to treat you any differently, because the only thing that matters is whether or not you're a good person. And I think that's a really big thing at Fei Tian and at Shen Yun. It's like, whether or not you're a good person, that's the first thing. So nobody's really going to try and push themselves to the top or be like, I'm so great, because everyone knows that that's not the priority in a way. Yeah.
I think that's like a point that Lily made was really important. Like, a lot of people don't understand that at Fei Tian and also at Shen Yun, everyone's really humble. Like, you see us, we're all dressed up and we are like performing on stage and the stars of the show, but everyone you meet is really humble. And I think that comes from our faith, because we learn how to care for other people and think of others before ourselves, and treat others' accomplishments more important than our own. And I really truly feel like that's because of my faith.
And I think another thing about what makes the environment so special, like Lily was saying how special the environment that we have at our school is that you're constantly inspired by the people around you. You're constantly inspired by your friends, your family, and the fact that we are dancing alongside each other, we're meditating, we're practicing alongside each other. The fact that you can always learn from someone next to you, because like dance is so like profound and there's so many different facets to it, and it's kind of just like you're constantly inspired by your peers to kind of be better every single day. And I feel like everybody has sort of that kind of mentality, and that's what pushes and kind of makes the environment so special.
This is not on purpose, but I'm just gonna keep going even though it's a line. I just really had something to say, because people always ask us, like, sometimes ask us, why are we doing this? Why are we doing this, right? Or why do we love Shen Yun so much? Why do we put in so much to protect Shen Yun? It's precisely this. It's precisely because Shen Yun taught us that as an artist, the most important thing of being an artist isn't the technique or mastering the technique of the art. It's what's in your soul. Because all the great artists, no matter from the Renaissance period, from any period of time, it's always because they put their soul, they put goodness, put hope, compassion into their piece of art. And because of, like everyone said, everyone's trying to become a better person. That's what Shen Yun teaches. And that's why it's so dear to us, and because it really changed our lives and taught us so much. And so that's why we're willing to protect Shen Yun and do our best.
I'm curious.
I'll just add an amen to all that.
What were some of your earlier inspirations before you guys joined Shen Yun?
For me, before I joined, because I started dancing for a few years before I actually joined Shen Yun, and so I actually grew up idolizing Shen Yun dancers. And so when I first got accepted to the academy, it was pretty surreal, because one of the dancers that I had idolized was actually my very first teacher. and kind of like being in that kind of environment where it's like seeing those veteran dancers kind of shine was definitely one of the first things that inspired me.
Did you ever have a chance to dance with that one?
Unfortunately, we were never in the same company, but he was my first teacher upon entering the academy. Yeah.
So for me, actually, my answer is very different. I started because this guy, because I'm his little brother, so I just follow whatever he does. That's actually what got me started. But again, what kept me going, like, you see a lot of people in the movie, right? That's Allison, the instructor. She was my instructor before I came to Feitian. There's Peter, all these guys, there's another our teacher, Jay. All of them, we grew up watching them at Lincoln Center. And to now be not only alongside them, but kind of in the front lines with them, it's a whole nother experience. And I remember you asking me what my favorite part of the movie was. I don't have a favorite moment. It's at the end of the movie when you stop in your tracks and you turn around and you see everything you've walked. That is my favorite part of the movie. It wasn't any part. It was being able to reflect on everything we've been through and come through.
It's really remarkable when you think about the level and the skill and the dedication that you guys put in, not just from the athletic standpoint, but obviously we just heard from Lily and Levi, the spiritual aspect, and then you have the artistry. There's really no other people that compete at the level that you guys do that have to take care of their bodies, take care of their diet, make sure that they're well rested, and then walk into an arena or a performing arts hall and worry about bomb threats on any given night, or one of the most powerful media outlets in the world coming down on you. It's really, hence the name Unbroken. So, with that said, Levi, the film shows years of CCP-linked smear campaigns, interference, threats against Shen Yun, as we just pointed out. This Toronto cancellation, in a sense, even after police clearing the venue, feels like sort of we've entered a new era or a new chapter. Why do you think the CCP puts so much energy in stopping Shen Yun, and what does this escalation mean to you?
Well, I think you have to look at modern China. China itself the culture is very spiritual. It goes back thousands of years. It's very deep. When the communist regime took over in '49, they went through systematic campaigns, killing tens of millions of people, but really the goal was to destroy the culture, to ram Marxism and communism down everybody's throats and transform the country into a communist country, and totally to kill the culture. By the late 80s, that was pretty much succeeded. And then the early 90s, a practice called Falun Gong, a Buddhist-based spiritual practice, was introduced. And in just a few short years, 100 million people had taken up the practice. That's 1 out of every 13 people in the country. It was their spiritual renaissance. This was their 15th century Florence from a spiritual perspective. And it was kind of the last hope of authentic culture. That's why at the end of the century, the leader of the Chinese Communist Party at that time looked at Falun Gong and said, let's crush this. And he imposed that, and for the last 26 years, it's been horrific. Rampant torture, rampant detention, death by torture, that's been the story. Along comes Shen Yun in 2006, and what they do is 2 things. They say, here's the real culture of China that is deeply spiritual, and they put it on stage for the world to say. And as some of the pieces you can see, they say, here's modern China. Here's the tyranny of the CCP, killing, destroying Falun Gong practitioners, other people, and here's the heroism of people standing up. Those are the 2 things that the CCP doesn't want the world to see. What the real culture is, and the fact that they're frauds as leaders. They're not the real shepherds of the Chinese culture, it's the nation or its people. And the true horror of what they're doing to Falun Gong. So from this point of view, and there was one moment in the film that one of the experts you put on talked about how Shen Yun rises almost to the level in the minds of Beijing an existential threat, because it exposes all of that. And so that's why, this film focused a lot on the last 2 years or so, but the day Shen Yun was formed, the last 20 years, across more than 40 countries, there has been nonstop efforts by the Chinese regime to sabotage and silence this company. And so this latest chapter in Toronto, the bomb threat, that intimidation having the effect of canceling the shows, this is something that Beijing's been gunning for 20 years. But that's why. In the minds of Beijing, this is the most scariest thing in the world.
So, Lily and Sunny, what is it that, we're in your hometown, Shenyun, being canceled here. What goes through your minds when you hear about these bomb threats and, all of these challenges that the company faces? And talk to us about what your inspiration is. Why do you guys continue to do what you do?
Well, I'm just imagining if I was, when I was still a child, 6 or 7, and I came to watch a new show in Toronto, and suddenly before, I already sat in the audience, and then suddenly they said the show was canceled, how sad I would have felt. So I could imagine all the audience members in Toronto who experienced that this time. So I feel very sorry that you had to go through that, but we really do hope that Shen can come back to Toronto soon. We will keep fighting, because all those... Like we said, all those threats and those bomb threats, they were all proved to be false after security checked. And and it's happening all over the world, in Europe, in Asia. It's just very unfortunate.
Yeah, for me, when I first heard about Toronto, it didn't really register at first, because it's been a couple years. We've been getting all these threats, and I've kind of gotten used to nothing ever happened. Like, we always had the show. And then I heard my friends say, oh, the shows in Toronto got canceled. And I was like, Toronto? I was like, no way. Like, all my memories of Toronto are watching Shenyun every year. And I was like, how could that happen in Toronto? That's terrible. And I thought back to when I first came to America to study dance, and my 2 best friends from elementary school in Thornhill gave me this box of photos. And there was one of the CN Tower, and then underneath they wrote, this city is our city. And then there's another photo of the theater where we watched Shenyun together as kids. And then underneath they wrote, this is where it all started. And whenever I look at that photo, I think about that feeling I had walking into the theater when I was 10, that sort of magic you experience. And I thought about what Shenyun means to me, and what it means to my family and friends, and what it means to Canadians. And I just felt now I'm living the dream. I'm touring with Shenyun, and then the people in my home city were deprived of their chance to see what I get to do every day. I felt like that was just so unfair. So we're gonna come back. I hope everyone will get to see.
And from what I do understand, there is hope for Shenyun to return this year. And there is, I think it's important also, the film is called Unbroken. So after what happened here, what does the word unbroken mean to each one of you guys?
Come on, say something profound.
I actually can start off with a little story. I'm not going to answer it directly. I can leave it to other people if they wanted to answer it. But because I feel like I wanted to share this with everyone. This year, we were in Europe. So actually, we just flew back from Frankfurt a couple days ago. We were in a city called Bremen in Germany. And before every show, our company manager kind of pulls us all together, little pep talk before the show, come on, we got this, every show is important. So she gives us a little pep talk, and then she said, okay, this city has bomb threats again. We're like, okay, what's new? And then she said, but this time's different. She said, in this theater, every worker on side stage right now received death threats to their family. Every family received a letter saying that if so-and-so comes to help Shenyun that night, their family will be killed. That night, not a single person stayed at home. Everyone came to help the show. And that leads into the name Unbroken. And I think the same thing here for Toronto. Even if we get shut down, even if we face whatever we have to face, the fact that, a lot of you guys came back to see us, even though you can't see the show, again, all this ties into the name Unbroken. It's not just about us. It's not about the people in Bremen, the theater, and not just about you guys as well. It applies to, it's a principle to live by, to uphold what's right.
Well, Dad, you asked for something profound.
I did, yeah, that was good.
Just so everybody knows, we are going to open it up for a question and answer soon. So if you had questions during the film, you can start to think about maybe there were certain issues that you had more questions about, as well as from the discussion here. So please be ready. We'd love to hear from everybody. Anybody else want to weigh in?
Kind of thinking like off what he was saying, I think like Shen Yun is reviving 5,000 years of Chinese civilization, and I know sometimes people are like, okay, so why are you doing that? You know, it's not, it's not your culture. And then, but I feel like from another angle, it's not just about the Chinese culture, it's about our universal values. I think what I've seen as I go around the world is that Shen Yun is trying to reignite humanity's goodness. I remember I watched one audience review where the man said, I believe these people on stage are part of the forces of goodness that will overcome the forces of darkness. And when I heard that, I was really touched because I thought that's what I see in the people around me, and that's what I feel like we're trying to do on stage. So I think that's also part of why this is such a huge driving force, because it starts from people's hearts and souls.
I think I can't beat those two amazing answers, but I just want to say, yeah, the word unbroken, along with the words like resilience, perseverance, these are all the values that we embody here at Shen Yun. And over the years, I just want to thank everyone who has helped me along the way, because I definitely couldn't have done it myself, but Shen Yun has shown me such a beautiful environment. It's been my second home, and I know no matter how hard it's going to be in the future, I'm ready to face it because I have everyone doing it together with me.
A personal story of mine was Last Tour, which is the tour that you guys saw during the documentary. So basically, you guys may know that every year we have one piece dedicated to the persecution of Falun Gong. And last year I played the main character for that one piece, and it was a couple. It was about a couple that got separated, and then the male lead gets thrown into prison, tortured, blinded. And then at the very end, it is through his faith that he finds hope again and finds salvation. And I feel like this kind of ties into the title of Unbroken, because I mean there will be times where you feel broken, where life is not going right, where you feel it's like nothing's working, but I feel like our purpose here at Shen Yun is to help inspire people, to help give hope to people. And yeah, I feel like that's a big kind of, that's what Unbroken kind of means to me, is not just like the term unbroken, but it's like when you are kind of broken and down there, it's like how you get back up, how you regain hope and see the salvation and the light.
And for me, when I think of Unbroken, actually, my heart goes out to the practitioners in China who are still being persecuted for their faith, and we share the same faith. And actually, this time when I was performing in Lincoln Center, like Jesse said, sometimes you have some days that you're not feeling it, right? I was having one of those days, but as a musician in the pit, I can see the audience members. And I remember I saw this one lady in the first row, and I recognized her. I knew she practiced Falun Dafa. And then when it got to the Dafa piece, I saw her tearing up. And then in that moment, I just felt like, for all I know, we could be telling her story, but she's not able to show it to the world. But we might be telling her story through our performance. And so when I think of Unbroken, I really do think of those practitioners in China.
So Levi, to close us out before we go to Q&A, does this ultimately feel like it goes beyond just Shen Yun? And what larger issue do you think we need to understand from this?
There was a prominent journalist who came to the New York City premiere and watched the show, and he said something interesting, which I think maybe is perhaps obvious, but I think it was right on the money, is that the story of Shen Yun is not just about Shen Yun. This is an American story or a Canadian story. This is a story about how we can stand up to all the illicit ways that the largest totalitarian regime on earth throws at us to silence us, malign us, sabotage us. And in a way, if you look at, I call it the Shen Yun Index. If you look around the world at the countries and regions that will hold a Shen Yun show, and some that won't because they're scared of Beijing, it's kind of a clear indicator of where does that nation stand, or where does that region stand in its ability to protect their own liberty, their own freedoms, their own freedom of expression and art. It really is sort of a Shenyang index. And I think that's what I think strikes me about this movie, and I think is an important overall issue, is that it's not a Shenyang issue. This is a freedom of expression and freedom in general issue for all of us.
Thank you so much. Okay, so I guess now we can open it up to the audience. We can see you with all these bright lights. If you have any questions, just raise your hand. There's a mic right here. We're going to bring it here. And we have mics on both sides, so just wave your hand and look for the person with the mic.
Thank you. So thank you very much. Really well done, and flexibility. You know, peace, tolerance, compassion, everything that you do. It's really shows here in the movie. I've got a couple of questions. One for Steve and one for Levi. Steve, you interviewed this guy Rothfeld.
Yes.
What happened when did you have any follow up with that? You asked him a couple of questions and he did what a guy would do. He would hang up the phone on you. And then I have another question for you, Levi. So the question for Levi is, what action do you want people to take after watching this movie, after being exposed to this type of truth and what's happening? What actions do you want people to take from after watching this? Thank you.
Well, with regard to Michael, it was actually Michael Rothfeld and Nicole Hone. And, we didn't really have enough time, and it was in too much depth, just, while we're at it, to mention. But Nicole Hone, her father, George Hone, has some very concerning ties to the Chinese Communist Party, actually. The Communist Party's United Front Work Department and the Overseas Scholar Association. He's directly affiliated with that. So that's sort of an interesting point. But to your question, we did try to call Nicole. She didn't pick up. Curiosity looked like it may have killed the cat for Michael, and he did. And he wasn't interested in answering anything. He did get his recorder. We gave him time to do that. But yeah, that was where it sort of stood with him.
In terms of the question of what you can do, I mean, again, coming back to this idea of the Shenyang Index, first of all, I say it's a lovely show. It's a wonderful show. I think you should go see Shenyang and make a lot of noise about it because, again, think about what this means to Beijing. The Chinese regime is looking at this and thinking, and they're very, very scared that this show and you guys coming to the show will realize and see what authentic Chinese culture is that they've been trying to destroy and what persecution is happening in China. So support for this show, very vocal support for this show, is not just getting you guys to see a great show, it's actually a message to the Chinese regime and your fellow citizens in Canada, America, and so forth. It sends a real statement. But there's also a lot of things you can do sort of at the legal level. There are a lot of countries. I know in America right now we have something originally called the Falun Gong Protection Act. So there's legislation for many, many countries that are trying to do things to stop things like the horrific practice of forced organ harvesting, which has been going on for almost 20 years, where people, mainly Falun Gong practitioners, but other dissidents, are being killed so their organs can be used in transplantation, a multi-billion-dollar business in China. There's laws that are trying to be passed. Some countries have passed them, Israel, Spain, a lot of countries, some US states have passed them. A lot of other countries are trying to pass them. Get behind these kind of things, because that not only has real teeth, it'll have real meaning, ending real suffering and killing, but again, it sends a tremendous message to the Chinese regime that all these bomb threats and these scare tactics, which is largely what they have, are not working.
Okay.
My question is for the brothers, Jesse and Luca. I hope you can hear me.
Yes.
Thank you so much for sharing your personal stories, your family story, which is, of course, underpinned by the grander political narrative. I was just more curious on the personal and family front, given that your family represents a wonderful, personal blending of the two cultures, the Chinese and the North American culture. How did you sort of navigate those two identities in terms of, what propelled you to choose, a career path in a traditional Chinese art form as opposed to something more traditional, like I think your dad mentioned he had a background in competitive hockey, for example.
That was me.
Oh, sorry, my apologies. But
Hockey is that thing you guys do on ice? Is that right? Is that, yeah.
And just to sort of for context, I know our musician, you mentioned sort of navigating, growing up in in the context of suburban Caucasian Chicago, sort of I don't know if being ashamed, but sort of amputated maybe from your culture and sort of reconnecting and being proud of your Chinese heritage through Shen Yun. Or another one of the artists who's not present who shared, he had that personal connection because of his father being persecuted and ultimately passing away. And I think at the end there was the caption that read that he's still advocating for his living mother in China. If you don't mind sharing, is there a personal link or was it just something you felt connected to? I know Levi, your dad mentioned he also practices, some of the Buddhist practices. Feel free to get into whatever you feel comfortable.
I feel like it doesn't matter what culture you're from, Chinese, Western, doesn't I feel like the universal values that we share are all pretty much the same of like hope and compassion and resilience, right? And so I feel like initially that was what inspired me to join Shen Yun and to kind of join this mission is because I was inspired and I wanted to inspire, other people the same way that, I felt when I first watched the show. And so I feel like those kind of values ultimately kind of transcend all barriers of language and culture. And it was as I got further into my career at Shen Yun and did I start to actually appreciate the true depth of the history and the beautiful culture of Chinese history, because it spans 5,000 years. It's so deep and multifaceted, and every single year you can learn something new from the characters that you portray. And so I guess it's like a mix of the fact that we share values throughout cultures, and then it's also the fact that Chinese culture is just so beautiful and deep, and there's so much to learn from it. Yeah.
Well, for me, growing up, I was kind of considered as the Asian guy. And then I went to Feitian and I became the white guy. So, relating it back to what about now, right? Well, I can say that I'm American. I'm proud American. But I am now well-versed in classical Chinese dance. I know the history of both countries. So, I've kind of felt like found a decent balance where it's like I have two identities and I'm kind of proud to be both and kind of representative of both, because I feel like I will never be one or the other. So now I'm kind of both.
A proud Chinese American.
Lily, you're a Westerner. Talk to us about your experience.
I don't know, I guess I was pretty lucky in that when I was quite young, I was introduced to classical Chinese dance. I think my mom danced when she was younger and she was drawn by the expressiveness of classical Chinese dance. And I think for me, Chinese culture, yeah, it's very deep. And I think maybe my own understanding why many Westerners are drawn to it is just its depth or almost mystery. I guess if you're thinking martial arts, the whole softness overcoming hardness. I feel like classical Chinese dance embodies a lot of that. It's different from gymnastics and ballet, and it just has so many sides. So I feel like for me, pursuing that sort of art is just very fulfilling and it also kind of completes me as a person, because you're not only talking about flexibility or strength or just go, 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 which I feel is a very Caucasian mindset. I like to go, go, go. And then a lot of my Chinese friends, or when I'm learning classical Chinese dance, it's oh, you can actually take a step back. You can go another way. How can you do something more subtly? How can you have a nuanced sort of feeling? So I feel like for me, that was just very fascinating. And so that combined with Shen Yun's mission is just something that I didn't expect I would grow to love, but I'm very devoted to it now.
Do you think that attempts to silence Shen Yun have actually made more people curious about it? Have you noticed a shift?
Yeah, I've actually heard from people that some people specifically told our ticketing office that because we read the New York Times articles, we're going to come see your show. Like, oh, we didn't know about it. And then they said all these bad things. And we're like, we got to go see this show. And I was like,
Yeah, and I also heard like after the Toronto shows were canceled, there was actually a lot of public support, and that actually really motivated us as well. So, like even though the attempts of sabotage were really unfortunate, but the outcome actually, more people are showing us their support.
And there's a saying, there's no such thing as bad publicity. So, yeah.
That's unbroken.
There's a story that was told among the companies for a few years back. Every year when Shenyun goes out, the Chinese embassies in those countries sends out nasty emails and letters trying to get people to scare them, not go away from the show. And I think, was it Australia? A few years ago, they sent all these nasty things to members of parliament in Australia. So they're like, well, the Chinese regime doesn't like it. Must be pretty good. And there's so many members of parliament that went to that show. They're like, we could hold a session of parliament right here. So we have that kind of thing, too.
To our producers with the mics, just to let you guys know, we have some folks in the front row and down in this area that would like to ask questions as well. And I apologize to everybody waving because I can't see where the mic folks are. And who's going to be called on next. But we have a lot of questions, guys.
If they're asking questions, they're interested.
Please raise your hand. Right here.
Hi, my question is for Steve Lance. Regarding the piece by the New York Times, are you in communication with them to, now that there's another side to the story, for them to do another piece to sort of reflect the new evidence that we have now? And I guess sort of a related part to this question is, if no, how much foreign interference do you think there is within operation within the New York Times? And I guess the same would extend to the Four Seasons in Toronto, seeing that the show was canceled, despite the fact that there was no bomb. Thank you.
I appreciate the question. So, with regard to the New York Times response, we're just sort of, this is our premiere in Canada. Too long ago, we had it in New York City. So, we're just getting started with the promotion, and I think it will probably take you guys all telling a friend and them telling a friend and really creating some momentum behind it to get it on their radar. I'm sure they've seen it as to whether or not they're going to react to it. I think it'll have to reach a certain point. I hope they do. I mean, just anybody with a good conscience should watch this. And I mean, you can't fake this authenticity that we're seeing here. Maybe they'll watch this live stream and have a different opinion, and maybe realize their reporting was flawed. To your question about foreign interference, this crosses partisan lines. The CCP's foreign interference. I'm based in Washington, D.C. I see it play out on a daily basis, whether it's on Capitol Hill, Hollywood, our media outlets. And when you look at, one of the most sort of egregious errors or omissions, if you will, was the way that the New York Times reported on the atrocity that Levi pointed out, which is the forced live organ harvesting. The way that they minimized that with the amount of credible evidence that has been done and put out on that topic. And I guess I'd actually like Levi to talk about that, if you could. The China Tribunal and the forced organ harvesting issue.
Forced organ harvesting first came on the scene in the mid-2000s. Almost no one believed it. Fast forward to today. At this point, at least 7, I think 8 countries have laws on their books. They're not only acknowledging that this exists, but they have laws on their books to try and curtail it. There are at least a dozen published experts who've documented, sometimes using Chinese-owned data, that killing people for their organs is a fact inside China. Then there's the China Tribunal, which was chaired, it was in London from 2019 to 2020, chaired by Sir Jeffrey Nice, who's the guy who put Slobodan Milosevic behind bars. If you remember, many of you remember the former Yugoslavia. He chaired a tribunal for a year long that had over 50 witnesses flying into London, and they concluded indeed forced organ harvesting was happening. It was happening at a significant scale. Falun Gong was the primary target, and it was still going on. But despite the fact that Beijing initially denied it completely, then said, oh, it's not going on anymore. So the amount of evidence is overwhelming. There's, in fact, a colleague of Steve's is now a New York Times, ironically, New York Times best-selling author with a book called Killed to Order that documents this. So this is a well-established fact with over a dozen experts. What the New York Times did is three things. One of the people that testified in the China Tribunal was a former New York Times reporter who testified to the fact that she was on the case. She was going to sort of report on what was happening on forced organ harvesting in China, and her editors essentially killed the story, and she was soon no longer working for the New York Times. Then the New York Times went very silent. They didn't cover the China Tribunal like many other papers did. Forbes, Newsweek, Independent Telegraph, it was all over the news. New York Times was silent on that. Then it comes to this series of pieces on Shen Yun, where they also talked about the Falun Gong spiritual practice, and all of that body of evidence, all that, what they did is they found one China expert who has ties to a university in the United States that's funded by Alibaba, one of the major Chinese companies, where he kind of minimized it and said it's probably not happening. One expert. No mention of the laws, no mention of the China tribunals, no mention of the more than dozen experts in the field, none of that. And so that is, I think Steve speaks very correctly, that is one of the most shocking omissions. You know, the papers can lie to you in different ways, not just what they say. It is one of the most shocking omissions of the New York Times to completely, essentially pretend this whole atrocity does not exist.
And so the so-called China expert that the New York Times decided to highlight was somebody with very close ties to China at Yale, the center that receives billions of dollars of grants and funding from China. Levi, I do think it's also worth noting the fact that we're in Canada. Two of the heroes when it comes to exposing organ harvesting were Canadian.
That's right. That's right. They are. David Mattis, if you've heard the name, very famous human rights lawyer, has done fantastic work, and the late David Kilgore, your Secretary of State for Asia Pacific. These were the two men. Not only did they spearhead the investigation, they did some very brave stuff. They were actually on the phone with hospital administrators and doctors, getting them on record to admit, yes, we've got Falun Gong people. Yes, if you schedule an appointment, we can bring you in here, get you a vital organ in a week or two. In most civilized countries, you have to wait years, right, for someone to die. The matching, the only way that could be possible is they've got an enormous amount of people pre-screened in China, ready to kill for the right blood type and the other metrics they use to match you. And David Mattis, David Kilgore were really the pioneers of this whole investigation.
And with that said, you know, the New York Times, they have access to Beijing. You know, everybody wants access to 1.2 billion people. They have access to China. And in order to stay and maintain a news bureau in China, there's a certain line that everybody knows they can't cross and that they have to toe. And that's why, you know, our organization, NTD, and the Epoch Media Group, we're actually proud that we're banned from China because we know that that means we're doing something right. With that said, we are closing in on time. I do want to get to some folks here in the front. There's two folks, if we could get a mic down here. Okay.
Yes, hi. The point you raised about organ harvesting, does your performance ever include a scene on that? I know you're very inspirational about ancient Chinese culture, but you also show brutality in present-day China. So would you? I've only seen your show 2 years now in a row in Toronto, and I got there on the Saturday before the bomb threat. But do you have have you ever performed something about organ harvesting to get that message out through your show?
I'll let you guys take that.
Yes.
You have.
Yes.
I didn't see it. Sorry.
Oh. Yeah, usually every single recent years we've kind of channeled our program about the persecution to kind of focus more on like the brutality of the organ harvesting. Yeah.
And I know it sounds counterintuitive, but it is it is a very inspiring piece because you see such horror being met with tremendous courage and some of the salvation messages that Jesse talked about. But yes, it is in the show.
And also, it is done with art and grace, and it's subtle. It's not blood and guts, So for people that are saying it's done with great taste, and still very powerful.
The girls play the fairies at the end who come and help save the, yeah.
We always end we never end on a dark note. We always make sure to show light at the end of the tunnel. That's very important.
Yeah, but we're also not going to avoid the important issues. Like, it ends on a bright note, but we're definitely not hiding it. And that's why many audience members are like, I see why you guys can't go to China.
Thank you. Finally, woo! Okay, I'm going to be really quick and fast. To the artists, quick question. When the video you showed that we had Simone's, the Olympic athlete, and hurting your foot and injuries that you have, do you ever feel at any one time that when you're an artist performing and then you have to give back to the institution that has really put in their soul and heart, training you? Because when I have had the honor and privilege to see you this show a while back, it's not cheap. For 5 people, those deep pockets, not everyone gets a chance to see it. So by investing that much money, what proportion of that is actually coming to you as artists, having given that whole soul and heart performing this?
If I could just jump in real quick, I think that the point that you just made about the cost of the ticket sort of speaks to the fact, the insanity that Peter, one of the lead dancers, pointed out, that it's laughable to say that Shen Yun would be having these performers dance injured. Because how could you put on a show at Lincoln Center, the crown jewel of performing arts, with trained eyes that are paying $200-300 for one seat, and to have somebody with any type of injury that they might be limping or not being able to execute at the level that they do, I think that really speaks to the fact that you guys do maintain your bodies, which we personally witnessed when we were up on campus. But please feel free.
Actually, the students at Feitian College and Feitian Academy of the Arts, we're on full scholarship. So all of the costs on campus are all covered. And also as students, we also have a stipend.
Yeah, I just want to say, while a lot of my friends, our old schoolmates, are probably now in debt because of college or trying to find money to pay for college, I have a full scholarship, yeah. And not only that, because of the practicum thing we go on, I have been to Asia, Europe, North America, South America, and Australia, and performed hundreds of shows across the world with all hotels, meals, and transportation arranged. Danced on some of the world's greatest stages, which is, I think, for people that don't do the arts, it seems like it's honorable, but for performers, to get an opportunity to stand on a stage. There are people who practice in classrooms for 15 years and they never go on stage. If you put them on a stage, they might not be able to handle it. When I was like 14 or 15, I was already able to do that as part of my education. And many of my family, I have family members who were in the military and they were deployed. They haven't even been to as many places I have. So for me, I feel like I would want to give back to Shen Yun. I think I have more than gotten everything that I should.
And for me, I'm now a part of Shen Yun as a full-time member, but I did join the practicum with Feitian. And like Lily said, we have a full scholarship, and also all our expenses are paid for tour. And I left college with no student debt. I'm completely debt-free, like you mentioned. And I'm salaried as an adult right now, and I'm still able to tour with Shen Yun with all the expenses paid.
Okay, brilliant. Thank you so much. So I needed to see the fact that this is Toronto, Canada is multicultural, maybe some ties with the Rohingya, Bangladeshi, Kashmir, Rwanda, some sort of elements in this particular show would carry the message as a multicultural eye-opener. Maybe a bigger audience would be feeling the sense of seeing this, because right now it's all primarily focused on the CCP element of it. Yeah, and I'm surprised. Where are the journalists here tonight? I mean, this is
There's
going
one
to,
over there. Waiting.
yeah, and this is going to be an eye opener for them to see what's going on.
One question I had for the group when I first started to investigate, and I attended a Shen Yun performance, and I was sort of surprised that you would think, a classical Chinese dance show in the United States, that it might have a more ethnic feel to it, and it didn't. It was just everybody from all walks of life. That was a really big takeaway that I had. I don't know if you guys.
Yeah, actually, when we tour around the world, our troupe, we just came back from Europe, and we've been to Austria, Spain, Germany, and basically, UK. Yeah, UK spoke English, but all the other countries, they spoke in different languages, so we actually can't understand what the MC is saying half the time. It's pretty funny. But yeah, we do perform in a lot of different countries, and like people were saying before, it's because these values that we portray, they're universal. So no matter where we go, and art, everyone can understand art. So wherever we go, we resonate and we have a connection with the audience.
I guess we're just telling our story. Like, I think we're just trying to do our best to tell what we know best and what we've been through. But I think we hope that this message will encourage people in any country or under any sort of dictatorship or any sort of oppressive regime to step forward. And I think, like, maybe we can't speak for other people, but this is our story, and hopefully it can inspire others to do better. Hopefully it can have a positive impact in the world that will ripple out into broader impacts. Yeah.
Unfortunately, we are getting the proverbial hook, sadly. We do want to just thank everybody for coming out tonight once again, your support for the film, and then hopefully Shen Yun, when it comes back to Toronto, would be greatly appreciated. In the meantime, I think we should all stand up here and give our cast and the performers a big round of applause. Great job, guys. We have some flowers here too for everybody. Yes. Thank you all. Greatly appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you. And just when you file out, everybody, make sure you file down. Don't go upstream. There's going to be some folks, some media out there that would love to hear from some folks and get your thoughts and testimonial about what you thought about the film. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.